The alien marketplace was loud and crowded, filled with voices, strange smells, and the sound of footsteps on the dusty ground. Bright lights hung from metal poles, but even their glow could not hide the cruelty taking place in the center of the square. There she stood, a small alien girl, thin and trembling. Her skin was pale, her clothes torn, her feet bare against the cold ground. She hugged her arms tightly across her chest as if trying to disappear from sight. Yet no one gave her kindness instead. The crowd around her only laughed. Mockery echoed from every corner. Harsh alien voices called her names. Some pointed their fingers while others threw scraps of rotten food toward her. A few children even joined in, copying the cruel laughter of their elders. The girl lowered her head, her long hair falling forward to hide her face. But it was no protection. She could still hear every cruel word. "Look at her, worthless," someone shouted. "She is nothing, not even worth the dirt on our shoes," another voice cried. "Why doesn't she run away? Is she too weak?" a third mocked, and the crowd burst into more laughter. The girl's shoulders shook, but she said nothing. Her silence only made the crowd louder. For them, her suffering was entertainment. Among them, no one offered a hand. No one told the others to stop. Instead, their faces showed delight in her shame. This was the kind of cruelty that had grown normal in this place. But then, something different happened. A human had entered the marketplace. He had been walking among the vendors, looking at the goods. His tall frame and strange clothes already made him stand out. Many eyes turned toward him as he paused. He had noticed the crowd's noise and the way it all centered on the small girl. His gaze sharpened, his eyes fixed on her fragile figure. He saw her trembling, the bruises on her arms, the way she tried to shrink into herself. His jaw tightened. The crowd, noticing his stare, called out to him, "Human, come laugh with us. You have never seen such a pitiful thing. Join us, it will be fun." But the human did not laugh. He did not even smile. Instead, he stood still, his expression hard and unreadable. He watched the girl as if measuring the depth of her pain, and what he saw stirred something fierce inside him. The girl dared to lift her head for just a second. Her large eyes met his. They were filled with shame, fear, and a question she did not dare ask. Why was he looking at her? Would he mock her too? Her gaze dropped again, but for that one moment she had seen something unusual. His eyes had not been cruel. They had been steady, sharp, and almost angry, but not at her. The crowd waited for his reaction. They expected the human to join them. They wanted his voice to add to their cruel chorus. Instead, the silence stretched. Their laughter faltered for a heartbeat. The human's hand moved slowly. He pulled at the clasp on his heavy cloak. The dark fabric shifted. As he loosened it, his movements drew the eyes of everyone in the square. What was he doing? Why had he stopped walking just for her? The girl stood frozen, unaware of what he planned. She only braced herself, expecting more shame. Her mind told her he would throw something too. Maybe his coat, to add to the cruelty. That was what everyone else did. Why would a stranger be any different? But the human's silence was heavy. His steps forward caused the nearest aliens to step back without even realizing it. There was something about his presence, quiet, yet strong, controlled yet dangerous. It unsettled them. The girl shivered, the cold night wind brushing against her bare arms. Around her, laughter still lingered, but now it sounded weaker, uncertain. The human had broken the rhythm of their cruelty simply by standing there, simply by refusing to join. For the first time that night, the alien girl felt the noise of the crowd soften. A strange hope flickered inside her chest, though she quickly tried to push it down. She had learned never to hope, never to expect kindness. Hope was a trap, it only led to more pain. Yet still, why was he not laughing? Why was he looking at her as if she mattered? The crowd leaned closer, restless. Some whispered among themselves. A tension filled the air. The girl's breath came shallow and quick. She was waiting. The crowd was waiting. And the human had not yet moved his cloak fully from his shoulders. It was a moment stretched thin, about to break, and no one in that marketplace knew what would happen next. The human's eyes stayed fixed on the small alien girl. His gaze was steady, unblinking, and it carried a weight that made the laughter of the crowd slowly weaken. He did not speak, but his silence was louder than their mockery. The girl shifted under his stare. Her thin fingers tightened on her torn clothes. She wanted to look away, but something inside her kept her frozen. She had seen many faces before, faces filled with disgust, cruelty, or emptiness. But his face was different. His eyes burned with something else, something sharp and alive. The crowd began to grow impatient. "Well, human," one alien shouted. "Say something, laugh with us, this little creature is worthless. Show us you understand." Another joined. "Do not stand there like a stone. We are giving you a show. Enjoy it." But the human did not move. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, studying the girl as though searching for something. The crowd frowned, their amusement turning to irritation. What was he thinking? Why did he not join them? The girl's heart beat faster, she whispered to herself so softly that only she could hear. "Please, do not look at me, do not make it worse." Her eyes shimmered, on the edge of tears. For she believed the longer his gaze remained, the harsher the blow would be when it came. The human finally moved. His hand reached to the front of his chest. He loosened the clasp of his heavy cloak. The thick fabric slid slightly off his shoulder, and a small wave of surprise rippled through the crowd. What was he doing? The aliens exchanged puzzled glances. Some muttered in disbelief. "He cannot be serious, why would he?" But before they could finish, the human stepped forward, slow and measured. Each step pressed into the dust, and with each step the space around him grew quiet. The girl's breath caught. Her eyes lifted again, confused. He was coming closer. His expression did not soften, but it did not carry cruelty either. His gaze was direct, as if he had chosen to see her, truly see her when no one else ever did. The crowd tried to break his silence with jeers. "What do you want with her? She is nothing. Do not touch that filth, human. You will stain yourself." But he ignored them completely. His attention never left the girl. When he finally stopped, he was only a few steps away. His shadow stretched across her small frame. She trembled under it, not knowing if it was danger or protection. His eyes scanned her face, her thin arms, the way she hugged herself as though her own body was the only shield she had left. Then he knelt, lowering himself so his eyes met hers at the same level. The crowd gasped at the gesture. To them, it looked like he was lowering his pride, lowering his human dignity to match a worthless outcast, but to the girl, it was something entirely new. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. She did not understand why, but she could not look away from him. The human's gaze softened just enough for her to see it. His eyes were still fierce, but the fire was no longer aimed at her. It was aimed at the world around them, at the crowd, at the cruelty that had torn her down. The girl blinked rapidly, her throat dry. She whispered a question without voice, a question only her heart dared ask. "Why are you looking at me like that?" The human pulled the cloak from his shoulders completely. He held it in one strong hand, the fabric heavy and warm. He lifted it slowly, his movement calm but firm. The crowd's voices dropped into silence, waiting, disbelieving. The girl flinched, closing her eyes tight. She thought he would strike her with it, or toss it at her as a fresh insult. But the strike never came. Instead, she felt the weight of fabric settling gently around her shoulders. Her eyes flew open. She looked down in shock. The human had wrapped his cloak around her fragile frame, covering her torn clothes, shielding her from the cold. The heavy warmth pressed against her body, and for the first time in her life, she felt something more than survival. She felt protection. The crowd gasped. Anger quickly replaced surprise. "What are you doing?" one alien shouted. "You waste your cloak on her?" "She is nothing," another yelled. "Take it back, do not shame yourself with this trash." But the human rose to his full height. His eyes narrowed at them. His voice came at last, calm, strong, and heavy with warning. "She is not trash." The girl's lips trembled. She looked up at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. No one had ever said such words for her. No one had ever stood against the crowd for her. The human shifted slightly, placing one hand gently on her shoulder. The warmth of his palm pressed through the fabric, steady and grounding. The crowd stirred uneasily. Their laughter had died, and in its place came an uncertain silence. The alien girl's heart pounded. Her mind could not make sense of what had just happened. All she knew was that for the first time, she was not alone in the square. Someone had chosen her. Someone had seen her. And as the human stood tall beside her, cloak around her shoulders, his gaze still sharp and unshaken, the crowd realized something dangerous. This was not just a traveler, this was a human, one who had decided to defy them all. The night air grew colder, but the girl no longer felt it. She was wrapped not just in warmth of cloth, but in the warmth of something she had never known, human kindness. And the crowd, stunned and restless, waited to see what would happen next. The girl could hardly breathe, the heavy cloak pressed against her thin shoulders. Its weight was more than fabric. It was safety. It was warmth. She clutched the edge of it tightly, her small fingers digging into the thick cloth, afraid that, if she let go, it would be taken from her. The human stood tall beside her, his expression calm but strong. His eyes swept over the crowd, and for the first time, no one dared laugh. The silence was sharp, like a blade cutting through the air. The marketplace that once roared with cruel joy now trembled under the weight of one man's choice. The girl slowly lifted her head. Her hair fell away from her face. Her eyes, wide and wet, stared up at him. She did not understand. She had been mocked since she could remember. Every day was the same, shame piled upon shame. And now, without asking for anything, someone had chosen to shield her. Her lips parted, but no words came. Her voice was locked deep inside her chest. The human looked down at her. His eyes softened, and though he said nothing, she felt something powerful in his gaze, an unspoken promise. The crowd did not stay silent for long. Whispers grew into angry voices. "He disgraces himself," one alien spat. "Does he not know who she is?" "She is cursed, she is weak, she deserves nothing," another shouted. The human did not answer. He simply adjusted the cloak around her shoulders, tugging it tighter to block the cold air. His action made the girl gasp softly. No one had ever cared if she was cold, no one had cared at all. But here was this human, a stranger, treating her as if her life mattered. Her heart raced. She lowered her head again, but this time not out of shame. It was because tears blurred her vision, hot and heavy. They fell silently onto the cloak, disappearing into the fabric. For the first time, her tears were not of despair, but of confusion, of something close to hope. The crowd began to step closer, their faces twisted with anger. "Take it off her, human. Do not shame us with your pity." One hissed. "She will drag you down. She is nothing," another shouted. The girl flinched at their words. Her body shrank instinctively. She was used to being the target, but the human did not let her slip away. His hand remained firm on Sawar, her shoulder steady and strong. His voice finally cut through the noise, low but filled with iron. "Enough," he said. The single word carried power. It echoed across the square, and even those at the back heard it. The crowd froze, their anger clashing with fear. They were many, but something in his tone told them he would not bend. The girl looked up again, startled by his voice. It was not cruel. It was not mocking. It was solid, like stone. His words were a wall between her and the hatred of the crowd. For a moment she wondered if this was a dream. Perhaps she would wake up and find herself alone again, trembling under laughter. But the cloak was real, its warmth heavy around her body. The human was real, his presence unshakable. Her small hands gripped the fabric tighter. She whispered softly, the sound barely reaching him. "Why?" The human heard her. He turned his head slightly. His eyes met hers, and though he did not smile, there was a gentleness in his gaze. He did not answer yet. He did not need to. His actions already spoke louder than any words. The crowd was restless, Some stepped back, uncertain. They had expected the human to join their cruelty to prove their power was shared. Instead, he had broken it, torn it apart by simply refusing, by wrapping warmth around the one they had left to freeze. One alien shouted again, trying to regain control. "He will regret this, she is not worth his pity." But the words sounded weaker now. The human's silence, the girl's fragile form in his cloak, it all stood against them. The girl blinked, away tears. She felt smaller than ever, but for the first time, smaller did not mean worthless. Smaller meant protected. Smaller meant someone taller was standing for her. Her voice shook as she whispered again, this time a little stronger. "You should not. They will hate you too." The human bent slightly, his hand still on her shoulder. His eyes met hers again, steady and clear. He spoke only one word, but it carried more weight than the crowd's entire noise. "Let them." The girl gasped. Her heart ached with something she did not recognize. No one had ever chosen to suffer with her. No one had ever chosen her side. The warmth of the cloak wrapped around her body, but the warmth of those words wrapped around her soul. The crowd, unable to understand, muttered among themselves. Their laughter was gone. Their joy had turned to unease. The human's defiance had turned their game into something dangerous. The girl pressed her cheek against the cloak, closing her eyes for a moment. She wanted to stay in this warmth forever, just one night, just one memory where she was not mocked but protected. And as the human stood tall, cloak around her, gaze unshaken, the market square changed. It was no longer the place of her shame. It had become the place where, for the first time, she was wrapped in warmth. The silence in the market did not last. Whispers turned back into shouts, and the crowd's unease shifted into anger. The human had broken their fun, and worse, he had shamed them by standing against their cruelty. One alien stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Take it off her, human, you do not know what she is." His words made others raise their voices too. "Yes, remove your cloak, she is cursed. Do not protect her, she is nothing but shame." The girl shrank back. Her small body trembled under the heavy warmth of the cloak. Her fingers clutched. It tightly, terrified that they would rip it away. Her wide eyes darted to the human, searching for any sign of fear in him. But he did not move. His tall frame stood like a wall, his eyes fixed on the hostile crowd. The human's calm made the crowd angrier. They wanted him to bow, to give in, to prove that their way was stronger. Instead, his silence made their voices rise higher. "She does not belong here," one alien shouted. "She is weak, she is broken. You make yourself a fool standing beside her." The human finally spoke. His voice was low, steady, but it carried across the square. "She is alive. That is enough." The crowd stirred uneasily. His words were simple, but they carried weight. The girl blinked in shock, staring up at him. No one had ever spoken for her like that. But the anger did not fade. Some aliens pushed forward, their faces twisted with rage. "You think you can teach us?" one hissed. "You are only one man, we are many." Another sneered. "Humans are nothing special here, you will regret this defiance." The girl gasped softly, fear shot through her chest. If they attacked, the human would be alone. She tugged at his cloak, whispering with a shaking voice, "Please go, they will hurt you, do not stay for me." The human looked down at her. His eyes softened, and he gave a small shake of his head. His hand pressed gently on her shoulder. Firm and steady, it was a silent answer. He was not leaving. The crowd's anger burned hotter. "He chooses her over us," someone growled. "Then he insults all of us." Others joined in, fists raised, voices sharp. The marketplace became a storm of hatred, but still the human stood tall. His presence was unshaken. His eyes moved slowly across their faces, and something in his gaze made even the loudest hesitate. There was a strength there, a will that could not be broken. The girl clung tighter to the cloak, her small body pressed against his side. She felt the thrum of his strength like a shield around her, and though fear filled her, a small spark of trust began to grow. The leader of the crowd, a broad alien with sharp ridges across his skull, stepped forward. His voice roared above the others. You dare defy us, human? You will regret this. You protect trash, and so you become trash too. The human's eyes locked on him. His jaw tightened. He did not raise his voice, but his words came clear. If protecting her makes me less in your eyes, then so be it. But know this. No one touches her while I stand. The crowd erupted. Their anger clashed with disbelief. They had never seen defiance like this. Never seen anyone take shame as his own to shield another. The girl's breath came fast. Her eyes shimmered with tears. She whispered again, "Why? Why would you do this for me?" Her voice was desperate, as if afraid the moment would vanish. The human glanced down at her. His eyes fierce but warm. He spoke softly this time, only for her. "Because you matter." Her heart nearly stopped. No one had ever told her that. The words sank deep into her chest, burning against years of cold rejection. For the first time, she felt something strange inside, something fragile but alive. The crowd, however, would not accept it. Their shouts turned into movement. They pressed forward, their anger reaching a breaking point. They wanted to tear the cloak away, to prove the human's choice meant nothing. But as they closed in, the human shifted. His stance widened, his shoulders squared, and his hand remained firmly on the girl. The message was clear. He would not run. He would not yield. The marketplace trembled with tension. The girl's heart pounded. She knew violence could come any moment. But beneath her fear, there was also something new. A flicker of belief that maybe, just maybe, she was not worthless. And in that storm of anger, as the crowd prepared to strike, the human stood like unshaken stone, a shield of flesh and will, refusing to move. The battle between cruelty and compassion had begun, and everyone in the square knew it would not end quietly. The marketplace was no longer filled with laughter. It was filled with anger, harsh voices and the sound of feet pushing closer. The crowd pressed in, their faces twisted with hate. They wanted the human to kneel. They wanted the girl stripped. Again, to remind her she was nothing, but the human stood like a wall. His tall frame shielded her. His cloak wrapped her small body. His hand rested steady on her shoulder. The girl clung to the fabric, her wide eyes darting between the furious aliens and the silent man beside her. The leader of the crowd, the broad alien with the ridged skull, stepped forward. His voice thundered above the others. "You insult us all by protecting her, you. Shame this place, stand aside or be broken." The human's jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. His voice came calm, steady, every word heavy with iron. "If cruelty is your pride, then your pride is worthless." The words cut through the air like a blade. The crowd gasped. Their anger turned hotter, yet something in their hearts trembled. They had never been spoken to like this, not by one man, not by an outsider. The girl pressed herself closer to him. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Please, do not fight them. They will hurt you. They always win." Her eyes shimmered with fear. She had seen kindness crushed before. She did not want to see it crushed again. But the human bent his head slightly. His voice softened only for her. "They win only if we let them." Her breath caught. His words lit a spark in her chest, a spark she had never felt before. The crowd shouted again, "You think one man can stand against us? Fool, you are alone." The human's voice rose, strong now, his tone like thunder. "Alone? No, I stand with her, and that is enough." The girl's heart pounded. She could hardly believe the words. Someone was standing with her, not against her. Someone had chosen her side. The aliens pushed forward, their anger ready to spill into violence. Some reached out as if to grab the cloak, but the human moved first. His hand caught the arm of the nearest alien, his grip like iron. The alien cried out in shock, stumbling back. The crowd roared. Some jeered, some shouted threats. Others hesitated, fear flickering in their eyes. They had thought the human would break easily. But his stance, his strength, his resolve, none of it wavered. The girl gasped. She had never seen anyone stand for her like this. Each movement of his body was a shield. Each word he spoke was a sword. And for the first time, she felt the cruel crowd lose its power. "You shame yourselves," the human said, his voice deep. "Shame is not hers. It is yours. You laugh at the weak because you fear the strong inside her. You laugh because you are afraid, the aliens hissed. Some shouted denial, but their voices cracked. His words had pierced them. The girl stared up at him in wonder. His strength was not just in his body. It was in his voice, in his belief. He spoke like one who carried the truth. The leader sneered, his voice sharp. You will regret this, human. No one defies us and walks away. The human's eyes locked on him. His voice came cold, unshaken. Then remember this night. Remember the day one man stood against you, and remember that you failed to break him. The girl trembled. She felt the power of his words wash over her. Her tears fell silently, but this time they were not only of fear, they were mixed with something else. Pride. The crowd surged forward again, but many hesitated. The fire in their cruelty was burning out. They saw the human stance, they saw the girl wrapped in warmth. They saw a picture that unsettled them because deep inside they knew they were the ones who looked small now. The human bent his head once more toward the girl, his voice soft. You are not alone anymore. Her chest ached. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to hold on to those words. She whispered back, her voice breaking. I am afraid. He squeezed her shoulder gently, his gaze never leaving. The crowd, his voice steady. Then let me be afraid for you. The girl's eyes widened, her small body pressed into his side, and for the first time she felt safety, not imagined, not dreamed, but real. The marketplace, once loud with laughter, now burned with tension. The aliens shifted, unsure. The leader's rage shook him, but even he felt the weight of the human's resolve. The battle was not with fists alone, it was with will. And tonight, the human's will had already begun to win. The marketplace had fallen into a heavy silence. The crowd no longer laughed. Their voices had become whispers. Their anger had turned to unease. They could see it now. The human was not moving, not breaking. He stood like a wall, and the fragile girl beside him was no longer alone. The girl felt her knees shaking under the weight of every stare. Her body still trembled, but the warmth of the cloak pressed against her chest, and the steady hand of the human on her shoulder held her together. She looked up at him through tear-streaked eyes, wondering how someone could stand so firm when the whole world pushed against him. Her lips parted, a small whisper escaping. Why do you care? The human looked down at her. His gaze softened, his voice was calm. Because you deserve more than this. The words sank deep into her. She had been told her whole life she deserved nothing, and now this stranger, this human, was telling her she deserved more. Her chest tightened with a strange ache. Her tears flowed, but this time they carried a different weight. The crowd shifted, restless. Their leader snarled, Do not listen to him. He speaks lies. She is worthless. She always will be. The girl flinched at the cruel words, her head lowered. The old shame threatened to pull her down again. But then she felt the human's hand squeeze her shoulder gently. His voice cut through the noise. No, she is not worthless. The girl gasped. Her eyes widened. She looked at him again. His face was firm, his words solid. They carried no doubt, no hesitation. She felt something inside her shift, a small, fragile flame sparking to life. The aliens muttered among themselves. Some looked away. Some clenched their fists. But the human's strength was unshaken. His will filled the air, and it pressed down on them like a force they could not match. The girl whispered again, this time a little stronger. But I am weak. The human bent slightly so his eyes met hers. His voice was low, but it carried like a vow. Then I will be strong for you. Her breath caught. Her tears blurred her vision. No one had ever said words like these to her. No one had ever offered to carry her burden. She clung tighter to the cloak, pressing it against her face, trying to hide the storm of emotions inside her. The crowd grew louder, their anger rising again. But their voices no longer had the same power. Something had changed. The human's defiance had broken their rhythm. The girl's silence, once their entertainment, was now filled with something else. Hope. The leader shouted, You cannot. Save her, human. You cannot save what is already broken. The human's eyes locked on him, his voice thundered back. She is not broken. You only fear what you cannot control. The words struck the crowd. Many looked uneasy, some turned. Their faces away. They had never been called out like this before. They had never been forced to see their cruelty for what it was. The girl trembled, but her trembling was different now. It was not only fear, it was the weight of something new pressing inside her chest. She had been told her whole life she was small, unwanted, a mistake. But this man, this human, saw her differently. He saw her as something worth standing for. Her voice came again, faint, almost broken. Will you leave me too? The human bent closer, his hand still steady on her shoulder. His eyes never leaving hers, his answer was clear. No, I will not. Her tears spilled freely now. She had no strength left to hide them. She leaned against him, her forehead pressing into the edge of his cloak. Her small body shook with silent sobs, but beneath the pain, there was a strange relief. She was not alone. Not anymore. The human did not move her away. He let her lean on him. He let her cry. His hand stayed steady, his stance unshaken. His presence was her shield. The crowd's anger cracked under the weight of the moment. Some sneered, others whispered, but none could step forward. None could break what they were seeing. The bond between the human and the girl was silent but unshakable. The leader growled, his pride burning. This is not over, human. We will not forget. His voice shook with rage, but even he stepped back. His power in the square had slipped. The crowd followed, uncertain, restless, but unable to challenge the wall of will standing before them. The girl lifted her head slowly. Her red eyes met his again. Her lips trembled, but this time they curved into the faintest, smallest smile. It was fragile, like glass, but it was real. Thank you, she whispered. The human nodded once, his voice calm. You are safe now. And in that moment, with the angry crowd pulling, back in the night air heavy with silence, something unspoken formed between them. A bond not of words but of choice. A bond forged in the fire of cruelty, sealed by one human's defiance and one girl's fragile hope. It was a bond that would not break, not tonight, not ever. The square was quiet now. The cruel laughter that had once filled the air was gone. The crowd had fallen back, their voices lowered to uneasy whispers. No one dared step forward, no one dared challenge the human stance any longer. The girl still trembled under the heavy cloak, but she was not the same as before. The fear was there, yes, but something else lived inside her now. Something fragile, but alive. She felt it every time she looked at the human standing beside her. His tall frame shielded her from the cold eyes of the crowd. His steady presence gave her breath when she had none. The leader of the aliens growled, his pride wounded. His sharp ridges caught the dim light as he pointed a clawed finger. This will not end here, human. You shame us, you will pay. The human's eyes locked on him. His voice cut through the tension, steady and calm. Then remember this night. Remember who truly carries shame. It is not her. It is you. The leader's jaw clenched, but he did not move forward. He turned with a snarl, pushing through the others. The crowd parted for him, and one by one, the rest followed. Some threw hateful glances, some whispered, but none dared strike. The human had broken their game, and they had no victory to claim. The marketplace emptied slowly. The laughter was gone, replaced by silence. Only the human and the girl remained in the center, wrapped in the cloak, wrapped in warmth. The girl's knees nearly gave way. She swayed, but the human caught her gently, his hand steady on her arm, guiding her up. She blinked up at him, her voice shaking. They are gone. He nodded once, his expression calm. Yes, they are gone. Her lips trembled. She whispered, but they will come back. They always do. The human crouched down so his eyes met hers. His voice was low, but firm. Then let them. As long as I am here, they will not touch you. Her heart pounded. She could not understand him. could not understand why he had chosen her. Yet his words felt like chains breaking inside her chest. She had carried shame for so long that she forgot what it was to feel safe. The night wind blew cold through the empty square. The girl shivered, clutching the cloak tighter. The human straightened, his hand still resting lightly on her shoulder. His eyes scanned the path ahead, and then, without a word, he began to walk. The girl froze, staring at his back. Was he leaving her? Her breath caught in her throat. Panic rose inside her. She whispered, "Wait." He stopped, turning his head slightly, his voice calm. "Come." Her wide eyes filled with fresh tears. But this time, they were not from fear. They were from something else, something she could not yet name. Slowly, her small feet moved. She stepped forward, then another step, until she walked at his side. The market stalls around them were empty. Shadows stretched long across the ground. Yet for the first time she did not feel swallowed by them. She walked with the cloak wrapped around her shoulders, and with him beside her, she felt taller than ever before. Her voice broke the silence, soft and uncertain. "Why me?" The human glanced down at her, his eyes steady. "Because you are worth saving." Her breath caught. Her small hands clutched the cloak tighter. The words rang inside her chest, fighting the poison of every insult she had ever heard. She wanted to argue, to say she was nothing, but the words would not come. His belief in her was too strong. They walked slowly out of the square. The girl's steps shaky at first, but steadier with each one. She kept close to him, her shoulder brushing his side. The warmth of the cloak was nothing compared to the warmth of knowing she was no longer alone. Behind them, the marketplace was silent. It would remember this night. The crowd would remember the human who stood against them. The laughter they once loved now carried them. Bitter taste of defeat. The girl looked up at him again, her voice faint like a secret. "Will you stay with me?" The human's gaze softened. He did not answer with words. Instead, he placed his hand gently over hers, pressing the cloak tighter around her small frame. The gesture said enough. The girl lowered her head, hiding her tears in the fabric. But her lips curved into the smallest, shyest smile she had ever known. For the first time, her tears were not from pain. They were from hope. And together, step by step, they walked away from the place of her shame, leaving behind the laughter, leaving behind the cruelty. The girl no longer walked alone.